It's not over until they're all dead.
We don't know what's coming next. 3 of us are gone.
They could be anywhere.
Where are they? Go!
Cross any of these people, you kill them. Don't hesitate. They won't.
Welcome back. The Walking Dead has returned with a huge season premiere of season 5. No Sanctuary. No Sanctuary indeed. This is one of the most ambitious, one of the best episodes I've ever seen. You can get rid of your fears that the episode, this episodes have gotten too slow and boring. And I believe in you, Scott Gimple.
Whoever that is, I somewhat believe in him. I don't know if all my fears have vanished, but it was a good episode.
He wrote the show and he's a showrunner. Okay. So we have one of the craziest opening scenes ever before we get to the theme song. Very dramatic. So we've discovered what happened in Terminus after the finale, when we discovered these termites are not saviors; they are predators, and they are cannibals. They're horrible people. They are literally doing what you would do in a slaughterhouse, like hitting them, bleeding them out. That's how you get the meat. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And we see a close call with Glenn. If you've read the comics, you were right to be very, very, very scared for that moment. But they're abating us for now.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Glenn looked very scared.
He should have been scared. Everyone should have been scared. And they were so blasé about like, did you get the shots? Where are the shots? And then we have Bob being, doing a great scene. You don't have to do this. Yes, we do. And we get to the theme of the episode, which is you're either the butcher or you're the cattle.
Well, really fast on the Bob thing, what I love is, so Gareth, the cannibal hipster, he has the knife to Bob's eye or whatever, and he's talking with Rick. And at some point, Rick's like, that's the machete I'm gonna kill you with. As Bob would be like, motherfucker, there's a fucking knife in my eye right now.
That's not Rick's eye.
There was something just so chilling about that opening scene. I mean, it was just like, I think I watched after it when they talked about it was a writer that talked about it. It was like institutionalized evil. Like, it was like, not the evil that you expect from the walkers, but it was evil that was just so ritual to these people.
Supposed to be kind of like Nazi-esque.
Yeah, they were just sitting there and they were just like, oh, have you got your count today? And the guy's like, oh, I missed one. Okay, we'll just make up in the next batch. You know what I mean? It was just like, something so chilling about it, and the way they shot it, they threw in, I don't know if you know, that's the Penguin from Gotham, Robin Lord Taylor.
That's him.
Yeah,
that's
him. They flew him in, slit his throat, and then threw him back out. Like he got flown in from New York, and they're like,
he has to go back to Gotham because Gotham needs him.
Yeah, they desperately need him.
So
Well, also, like, I love the occasional reminders that the people who are thrust into positions like this weren't doing that before.
Yes, that's what I was getting to. We learned that they weren't always terrible people, and Terminus wasn't always a trap. It used to be, people had good intentions, but then they were warped by the cold, hard, scary realities of this world, and that's in many ways a great metaphor for what's happening to everyone. I mean, we go over to Carol and Tyreese, who are thankfully outside of Terminus. Also, Carol for Group Leader 2014. Am I right? Yeah. but like, we see Tyreese holding on to baby Judith. It's like he's holding on to the last scrap of his humanity, of who he was before the world just went to shit. Yeah. And this woman's like, she's an anchor. You don't need her. When you holding on to something beautiful and idealistic and full of hope, you can't do that anymore. But he's still holding on. He still hasn't gotten over what happened to Lizzie and Mika.
I think through the episode you've seen so many times of like so many of the main characters trying to hold on to their humanity. Like you've seen like Glenn, like, oh, we need to go and free that guy from the crate. Like we need to. That's still who we are. And it just turns out some crazy tattooed guy who comes running out and he ends up getting bitten anyway. But that's what. And then in the same scene, towards the end you see Rick like, let's just go back. We have to kill them all, as if like he's not human. He's not humane anymore. He needs to go back and just wipe everyone clean because he's got nothing else to live for. And then at the end of the scene, I never thought I'd be close to tearing up in the Walking Dead episode, but like it was like, because then he's like, okay, we now need to think of a game plan to move forward, because he finally went and found hope, which was Judith. And I was sitting there and I was like, I can't believe I'm tearing up. Walking Dead
No,
episode.
this was
It's
a
insane.
great episode.
Yeah.
It has to be one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion.
Well, what the episodes have needed recently and haven't really had consistently, at least for about 2 seasons, is actually being in danger.
Yeah.
Like they'll do 3 or 4 episodes in a row of them just in the prison, like sitting down and like having a philosophical discussion about leadership, which is great, but do that while running from zombies. And they started off, possibly could be killed by the cannibals, and then eventually the zombies are going all around them. They end up outside of the compound, like they're back to where they were a long time ago, which is what I want, that they could be attacked at any moment. Yeah. I think that the show needs that to drive it forward.
We gotta talk about Carol's badass scene.
That was.
It was, oh my, are we allowed to spoil on the show?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so.
Don't watch this until you see the episode.
Spoilers. Spoilers here.
So Carol, she's with Tyreese. She's kind of taking charge. She finds the best way to save our favorite group members, which is to, first of all, take a cue from Rick in season 1 and
That's
just
disgusting.
smear it all over her and blend in with the crowd, which is what I would do every time. Honestly.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it's nasty.
You'll be killed by
It's
disease.
nasty, but it's not. They don't have Ebola then, okay? Or we hope they don't. And then she is able to make an explosion and rain walker parts. And oh, Carol, I missed you.
Can I devil's advocate there? So it's all great that she's been accepted back into the group, and like Rick seems to be like, well, you did this. Okay, you're cool with me now. But like the reason she got like thrown out of the group was because she was too ruthless, too bloodthirsty.
I was going to say that.
Done this though.
No, I understand that, but look at what she did. How much information did she actually have about what was happening in Terminus when she did what she did? Yeah. Very little information, and she was willing to just gun down potentially innocent human beings.
There was a scene where she had the gun, and it was through the sight. It was a great shot, and it seemed like 3 walkers in front of it. She could have just shot 3 of them, but she goes behind them and shoots like one of the Terminus workers, which, as you said, she couldn't have known right there and then that these people were all like these cannibalistic.
She didn't know anything
she would
about
not at the time, and that's why Carol, I love the character of Carol because she has that soft side, but then she's nuts. Like she'll just take anyone out if they're if it has to be done. And I thought that was very well done. And I agree with what you said. I don't think a lot of people picked up on that. Thinking they're like Carol saved the day, but she also just like didn't have any like news to these people who were killing, just on a rampage, Rambo style.
The only information she had was what she overheard on the walkie-talkie that they were holding Michonne. But that was enough for her to go all Rambo style.
Maybe she's able to put 2 and 2 together and figure out my friends are in trouble. I have to save them.
She's gonna get kicked out again.
I like her. I want her forever.
She had a good showdown with the burger chef woman.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. I like that. There was a lot of leaving people to be eaten. There was as much in this episode as previously, and the fact that he left the baseball bat guy, I thought the idea was never leave one behind because you never know when it's going to come back and kill one of your group.
This brings me back to another question I have, which is Rick's group really better than the group that terrorized Terminus before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they are being very cutthroat. They are doing what it takes, which can be very much sacrificing humanity, despite Tyrese's metaphor and presence there.
I think that they are better. Look, I mean, keeping people penned up in that box so that you can rape them day after day, that's worse. I would say the cannibalism is worse. I just want to be clear about that. But Rick's group would never do that, obviously. But we did have one scene that I think showed how much Rick has changed in one shot more than any other previous one. When he goes around the corner and takes the machine gun and just guns down the humans, we haven't really seen that level of anti-human violence from Rick in one shot.
Yeah, that was something like you'd expect the governor to do, right? I mean,
that
was
very
governor-like. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of the guys that were slitting their throats, like. Leave them anything, like let them turn, because those are scumbags. Like I was like, good, let them turn. Like they deserve to be the people that they have like tracked down and killed, bit them be. But the same thing with Carol, like she could have just ended that woman's misery. Who, as you seen back, like she went through so much. I mean, with them, they were just as bad now, but they went through so much. So like you could have ended her misery, but they have this thing where they're like, let's just let the walkers take care of them. But then that's going to be another walker you're going to have to kill later on when they change. So I agree, they just had to like. I think they showed signs of both, like getting their humanity back, but at the same time, they'll do anything to get past.
Do you feel sympathy for the Terminus group at all, based on what we know about their past?
I think at the start of the episode, absolutely not. Like, even though we had the idea that they had wrongdoings, because on the wall it was like, never trust again, never like.
We first, always.
Yeah, we first.
What was it? It was
we
never
first.
Trust.
Never trust.
Something like that. Yeah.
I did feel sympathetic for them towards the end, I have to say. Like, when you seen them, that the fact that the woman, she'd obviously been raped, thrown back in, I think that might have been her daughter or something like that, who was taken out next, and she's like, oh, not again. I felt kind of sick. I was like, oh.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it was horrible.
We've only hinted at rape before.
Yeah,
in the show.
exactly.
Yeah.
This one has been very clear rape was going on, and that's something the show has never really touched as much, even though a lot of the source material does mention it explicitly.
Yeah, I understand that they would want to break out and kill the Hells Angels or whatever had taken over the complex. I don't know exactly how you convince a group of people. How do you broach the subject of, hey, y'all want to become cannibals now? That seems like a hard conversation to have. But the fact that they continued to broadcast the signal, bringing people in, I mean, it's one thing to defend yourself. It's another to try to bring innocents to you to then slaughter. I think that they far exceeded the brutality and cruelty of the group that had imprisoned them.
I think the writers of the episode made this so that you could ask that question. I think that's a great bit of TV making, is the fact is that you can ask the question of like, do you feel sympathetic, but at the same time, do you want this to happen? Like, do they deserve what they got? And that's what this television show is all about. It makes you think about whether these people deserve this or whether they're not, and how would they react in this situation.
No one's blameless.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no one who's truly innocent except for maybe baby Judith.
And I think that's summarized in Tyreese scene, when he goes like that, like the guy says that you're going to kill me, because if you didn't kill me, you would have killed me now. And he's like, you don't know the things that I've done. Like, he's trying to somewhat hold on to something that makes him humane, which is baby Judith, but at the same time, like, he's willing to do anything when it comes to it.
He went right back into that mode. Like, it was not hard for him.
It's pretty clear, obviously, that he killed the guy. The fact that he stopped Carol from going in leads me to believe there's a small chance that he left the guy behind. And I do think that the Terminus group has been characterized too much for us to be totally done with them. It seems like we're done with Terminus in record time. I think they're going to be followed.
No way.
And if that guy had been left alive and had overheard their conversation, that might be the sort of the first breadcrumb that leads them to be followed.
If you've checked out the season 5 trailer, you may find out a little bit of what is likely to come if you want to rewatch that.
But by the way, I liked Tyreese, right?
I think it's Tyreese.
Okay, you're the name person. Anyway, so he has the knife to the guy's throat, and he's like, he's battling his inner demons, and he throws it to the side and he punches him. He's like, I won't. And then like if I was on the ground, I'd be like, please do pick up the knife. This is worse. Like, this is so much more brutal than just cutting the guy's throat. But yeah, like, I guess he's back to being able to kill walkers, which is convenient. But I'm mostly excited. I love how fast the show has risen from, like, it's right now at a pretty all-time high, from its low of that quote from Rick at the end of the last episode, which is just horrible.
They're screwing with the wrong
people.
Oh God, I wouldn't.
It should have been they're fucking with the wrong people, just
Obviously.
so you know, everyone.
Yeah, but now there's direction at least, which is exciting. The show has been like every season they just choose one location to hole up in.
There was a new firewalker. We hadn't seen that before.
That's pretty cool.
Very impressive.
And then the same thing though. Like, do you think because like when it came up to Terminus, they had like 8 episodes where they were teasing Terminus, right? You're like, wonder what it's going to be like, and now they've just like exploded the whole thing. Like, it's just out there. So like, do you think this maybe? I am at an all-time high of the fan of the show, but where do you think? Like, how did they keep that level now?
We're gonna find that group that terrorized Terminus before. There is no way we're letting them go. They're going to come into contact with our group.
Do you think? But I mean, isn't the implication that they're dead?
They're not dead, I think.
I don't know. Would they have let them go, the Terminus group? I think that would be weird if they let them go.
My thought was that they just razed the whole area and then just left. Like, they moved on.
It's possible.
Well, they could be the bodies that were hanging on the chains. They could have been their first act of cannibalism.
Yeah, and that room did not look refrigerated to me. I feel like that you get parasites leaving meat out like that. The other scene that I want to talk about is obviously the weird scene with Mullet Head guy. Yeah. The fact that they had him sort of vocalize his plan, that to me generally in shows and movies is an indication that character is going to die.
Yeah.
So they need you to know that he passed on the information. But he was incredibly vague in his explanation, leading me to believe that he's not trustworthy.
We had this theory before that he's lying to them and he's just made this up and he doesn't really have anything, and this hope is all fake.
Yeah. I mean, he's talking about some sort of biological weapon that can take them out. How you disperse that across the entire world, I have no idea. But that, by the way, is not a cure. I mean, people seem to think that they're going to be able to have their loved ones come back or become immune to turning themselves, which is not at all what he's talking about. So he's at the very least misleading them, if not outright lying.
At the same time, I was, as we talked about before, I was kind of like pleased that he gave somewhat of an explanation, even though it was vague. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with like other vampire shows that I watch, but usually I'd expect some cheesy line that would come out of like the Vampire Diaries when it's just like, oh, you know what the cure is? My blood. And I was waiting for him to say something like that.
Say my love.
My love. No, I wasn't going to get that cheesy. But yeah, so I was kind of happy that he gave somewhat of an explanation. But at the same time, you're right. I'm just like, well, what is it? Like, what are you going to do that's different than what no one else could actually have came up with in this situation? And he just kind of said, I'm going to fight fire with fire. Oh, great. You're going to kill them. That's what we've been doing every day. So
we just
thanks for that.
introduced the firewalkers and the exploding pieces.
Well, them spread.
I really liked Andrew Lincoln's scene with being reunited with Judith.
Oh.
I mean, what do you mean?
Come on, man.
For some reason, look, I love that sort of thing in these sorts of shows, but for some reason, whatever emotional connection they're supposed to have, I forgot that baby was even his for a brief period.
It might not be his, but he still loves her.
This is one thing that I wanted to bring up. Did you see towards the end? I'm bad with names as well right now, but the redheaded guy is like, oh, we're going to have this conversation later. Like, what do you think that conversation's about? I think that they would be thinking that baby Judith can't come with them, right? Because he mentioned something like, oh, like his colleague or whatever they are, like their partners to try and keep Eugene safe. They said something to each other and they're like, oh, we're gonna have this conversation like in a little bit. So I'm thinking like they might, because baby Judith's like obviously gonna cry a lot and attract a lot more walkers. Like,
it might be about all of them.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. I get kind of a weird feeling from that.
That makes me question though. I mean, does that mean you can't have any children or babies or any hope of continuing in this world at all? Is this the end of the road?
Until they try and get him to DC and see if he has got this cure.
He doesn't.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm thinking. But
I was a lot
thinking back, and then obviously I think we've missed the whole. But I was like at the very end, Malcolm just out of nowhere just tracing traits back. What's going to happen with him? Like he's going to come back to meet up with the group, and I'm just interested to see how him and Rick realign after their. Like it seems like they're 5 seasons of like going along back and forth trying to find and meet each other again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read the graphic novels, so I don't know have as much sort of base material.
It's very different.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed it.
Extremely different.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited. Like the last the episode that they had where they found him holed up in that town with all the traps. He's an interesting character. He seemed pretty crazy at that point. I don't know if he's sort of recovered mentally. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it's portending to a great season. I certainly have high hopes, but I've always had high hopes for this show.
Yeah. Wait, I have one thing I want to say.
I was
one
about
suggestion.
to close up, but go.
I'm sorry, really fast. I think one thing that the show needs, I think it has been at its best throughout the last few seasons when it focuses on a small number of people or groups. When they had like the Carol and Mika and
you mean
that
all
episode
the groups and vignettes
exactly
and
like when they try to make 10 different characters interesting and they're bopping back and forth. It's not Game of Thrones. I don't think that works for the show. They need to stop trying to characterize everyone, choose a few people that we're supposed to care about, and focus on them, and I think that those have produced the best episodes. And I think this one only had a couple of groups that they were really paying attention to, and I think that was to its benefit.
We watched a lot of red shirts get bled out
in
this episode. All right, so what do you think? We feel good about this, what's to come in season 5 of The Walking Dead, and we're looking forward to more, or at least we all are. That was a good episode. Join us next week for more on The Walking Dead.